Bonus chapter. Much later. Mom, Grandma, Great-Grandma. Surrounded by a group of my children and great-grandchildren, my consciousness was slowly slipping away from me. I lived a good life, but there was just one thing. There was one thing I couldn't forgive. Hey, God. Why, yes. I know. A white space. In this empty void was a man with golden hair and blue eyes, who was the physical embodiment of what every woman would consider to be a good man. He wore a white outfit that seemed like something an aristocrat from ancient Rome would wear. Who else could it be but God? So, where is she now? She's on a journey with her companions right now and having plenty fun by the sound of it. And Reiko? She's already with her. TCH. So I'm late to the party. What about preparations with the god from over there? That's already taken care of. Oh dear, I'm just going to be causing more trouble for her. Good. Then send me over, if you please. Understood. I hope you have a nice life there. Thanks for getting us taken care of then. See you. Though she'd been pretty spry for a 90-year-old, her soul had grown weary over the years. But after she'd been freed from the restraints of her aging body, she was as energetic as she was back in her younger days. Her soul and consciousness were sent away to another world by the young man who looked like a god. After he was finished, he muttered to himself, but still, I was so surprised when a normal human was able to contact me 70 years ago through sheer force of will alone. It really made me realize once again just the sort of potential they have. Definitely a learning experience, if I do say so myself. The being who watched over Earth fondly remembered the promise the girls who came to yell at him had him make. We're going to have you make up for all the fun times I was supposed to have with Kaoru. I ended up causing more trouble for Celeste again. I really must do something to make it up to her. Welcome to my world, Fernie. Kyoko recoiled slightly as she came face to face with a girl grinning from ear to ear. So, about what the god from Earth and I talked about. Yes, I've already heard all about it. Should be the same thing as what Reiko-kun asked for, right? She looks excited about this. Kyoko thought to herself. So, you seem pretty happy about something, she couldn't help but comment. The goddess, on the other hand, seemed like she'd been waiting to be asked that. Well, you see, I just got a message from the being in charge of your world saying he's sorry to cause me trouble and that he's going to make it up to me somehow. Hee hee. Kyoko knew exactly what was going on here. They didn't say you got wiser as you grew older for nothing. What did Reiko ask for? She asked to be able to use every type of magic and to have unlimited MP. Yeah, that sounds like Reiko alright. Just goes all in when it comes to this stuff. Then I'd like the ability to create anything I want. Anything? That might be a little too much. The goddess fretted. Thus Kyoko conceded and changed her request. Then how about the ability for me to create any ship I know of? I'm no expert on ships, so I'd like to ask for them to be put together based on what's written about them. I'd also like to automatically know how to use each one I make, please. I'm a complete beginner when it comes to this stuff, after all. Only ships, you say? I think Kaoru and the others might be just about ready to cross the sea, actually, so this is some good timing. Let's go with that, then. The goddess seemed relieved that she managed to have Kyoko scale back her wish to something more reasonable. Kyoko, on the other hand, was grinning on the inside. But you're quite the impressive pair. I've heard what you managed to do from the other god, despite the fact that you're only humans. Why did you go through such lengths to do that? Just who are you to Kaoru? Kyoko broke into a wide grin as she answered the goddess. I'm Kyoko Nishozano, and she's Reiko-kun. We're Kaoru Nagase's best friends. After descending onto the world in her new body, her youth restored, Kyoko checked her surroundings before creating a certain ship from her memories. It was controlled by an onboard computer with its own personality. had its own powerful laser-optic weaponry, came with its own squadron of robot soldiers, and was jam-packed full of supplies in its storage bay. This was how she was going to travel the world and find Kaoru and the others. Even if she didn't end up finding her friend, Reiko should be able to use some sort of wide-range sensor magic to try and find Kaoru. Once Reiko realized Kyoko had arrived in this world as well, she should be able to find her, contact Kyoko so they could band up and look together. It wasn't like she was pressed for time, especially since she'd asked for the same conditions Kaoru had made for her new body after hearing about it from the god of Earth. Kyoko sat herself in the captain's chair and gave an order to the computer. Let's take off. Bonus story. Kaoru's splendid life. Several months had passed since the peace talks had ended. Miss Kaoru, the Alago Empire sent you an invitation to celebrate the construction of their first ship. Pass. I immediately turned down the invitation when Francette told me about it. The ship in question was based off a model I gave them of a carrack, a ship from the early seafaring days meant to sail on the open seas. It was a bit smaller than most of the carracks you'd find back on Earth, but it should be good enough for their first prototype ship. So long as it wasn't hit by a sudden storm or anything, it should be plenty to get them to the island to the west. I understood why the upper brass in Alago wanted to invite me out there, but if I was being honest here, I just didn't want to go. I knew it was because they felt like they owed me a debt of gratitude for telling them about the island and empowering them with enough knowledge about boats to get there. They probably invited me as a way of deepening our friendship and to ask me more technical advice on shipbuilding, and I wasn't against that. Still, so many had died in that battle. I bet there were just as many people who held a grudge against me for that. They'd lost sons, husbands, and fathers in that war, and they weren't just going to forget all that and welcome me with open arms because I helped out their country just a little. But it'd be a devastating blow for them if I was to suddenly disappear or turn my back on Alago, so I doubted they'd try and harm me. That said, I also doubted that sort of deep-seated hatred would disappear so easily. That was why I thought it best for me to not go there for now. They might never be able to bring themselves to forgive me, but their anger might at least dull over time. The passage of time could be cruel, but it could also end up being a blessing in disguise. Then for the next order of business, you've been invited to a party with a group of delegates from Alago. Oh, maybe I'll go to that one, actually. I'm sure those guys have their own standing to worry about after all. Even if it had only been half a year, I still had experience working as an office lady. Also, as someone who was once a working adult, I knew a little something about what it meant to have standing in society. Their reputation back home could get worse if they didn't meet with me before going back home, and I'd just feel bad for them if that happened. I'm actually a pretty considerate person, you see. No, seriously, I mean it. You've also received an invitation to the Crown Prince of Acid's birthday celebration. Pass. I've got a bad feeling about that one. Wouldn't the king just say no to it anyway? Oh, well, yes, probably. I'm sure the king would end up putting a stop to it himself in the end, but I'd like to think this was his way of at least consulting with me first before rejecting the invitation on my behalf. Or maybe he just didn't have the guts to do it because he was afraid I'd find out he rejected it. You've also received this message from the Crown Prince of Brancott. I swiped the letter from her hand and tore it to shreds on the spot. What are you doing? Francette exclaimed, panicking over the fact that I'd ripped up a letter from royalty without even reading it. I don't care how many problems this causes, I'm gonna live the way I want to. There's no place for him in my new life here. Francette's shoulders slumped as she watched me stomp on the scraps of paper I threw on the ground. I had already talked all about the prince and his antics with Francette, so it should be fine. Next is something from a Mr. Elritz from the Republic of Lileda. Who? And wait, where? Gonna be honest here, I've never heard of those names before. When Francette finally left after passing on all the latest happenings from the palace, I finally had a chance to catch my breath. Ever since Lola had taken over my duties at the Mellard workshop, I'd moved back into the house the children lived in and made sure to take care of them. Well, I said take care of, but Lucy was in charge of cooking after inheriting the position from Lola. If I did everything for them and ended up disappearing one day, it'd be hard for them to suddenly have to take care of themselves otherwise. I'd just help out every once in a while as their guardian, while the kids would do pretty much everything on their own. Other than that, they were completely independent. They'd split up the cooking, cleaning, and laundry and do it all themselves, which was why I wasn't really doing anything at all. I just ended up lazing around the house when I came back home. Lunch is ready, Miss Kaoru. Yeah, not too shabby. Wait, am I just a mooch now? I only made enough money to support my own lifestyle, and they didn't even try to take a single copper coin from me. I wasn't just a mooch but a neat too. No. I was actually working. I was saving up money by selling my potions and producing new products alongside the Abili Trade Company, and I'd even had meetings with other countries. But that didn't matter since I wasn't putting any of that money into our finances at home. It was just like those losers who put all their money into booze and gambling without giving any to their families. Dang, now I'm depressed. Maybe I'll go out shopping for a change. I left the house and had just started walking to the shopping district when... Long time no see, Miss Kaoru. Ah, Merliton. It was the engineer in charge of building ships for Alago. Sorry to bother you, but there was something I wanted to ask you regarding the boats. Yeah, I should be able to help out with something like that. I'd told people not to come to me with their demands and requests before, but I was referring to my goddess powers. I didn't really mind helping people out with what I could do as the human Kaoru. There may not be much I can offer to help, but I'd gladly do what I could. So long as it wasn't anything evil. So, who are those two? Pardon the late introductions. This is the artist, Parsif, and this is the sculptor, Garicles. We all came here together alongside the delegate party sent to visit Balmore. After exchanging greetings with my two new acquaintances, I headed over with them to the inn they were staying at to talk things over. The delegates were being put up in guest rooms at the palace, of course, but the craftspeople that came with them were staying at the inn. It made sense, since they weren't the guests of honor here. But I did wonder how the delegates felt when the craftsmen they just so happened to bring along could meet with me this easily. The craftsmen from the Empire would stop by often to come and visit me. It seemed they took a liking to me after the peace talks when I provided them with what they needed to build their boats. Especially when I gave them the models for the ships and explained what they would need to fit them with, as well as giving them advice on farming and fishing and the like. They had to come to me, since I wasn't going to Alago myself, but I did kinda want to be around to see the ceremonial launching of their first prototype ship. They might not even have that sort of tradition here, but I could make it a thing if I was there for it. They should totally get into it if I said it was some sort of ceremony to give the ship the blessing of the goddess or something. Merliton and the others had taken notes on questions other people asked them to give me, and we all had a good time talking it over as they scribbled down my replies. It was a long trip back to Alago, and it wasn't like it was completely free of danger either. It was the least I could do for them coming all this way to see me. At the time, I didn't realize why Merliton had gone out of his way to bring an artist and a sculptor just to meet me. I didn't even notice the sparkling in their eyes as they looked at me. It wasn't until much later that I heard rumors the figureheads on the fronts of the Alago Empire's fleet of ships all had the harshest looks in their eyes. After saying my goodbyes to the people who'd come from the Alago Empire, I was on my way to town when... Miss Kaoru. Oh boy. The messenger of the Crown Prince of Brancott had made his appearance yet again. No matter how many times I told him to beat it, he just kept coming back. Please, we would be honored to have you visit our country. The prince is very much looking forward to seeing you. Well, I'm not. If things ended up going south, I could end up stuck in Brancott for good. If they steered the conversation and began cross-examining me, I felt like I'd let slip who I really was pretty easily. So, you know, Discretion was the better part of valor and all that. I don't have any plans on going to a country I know nothing about. I don't know what could happen to me there, and frankly, I don't want to know. Well, I suppose it wouldn't be impossible if the king here ordered me to do it. But then you'd claim the king didn't have the right to give you any order. Exactly. I'd sworn to the goddess that I'd never listen to what the important bigwigs or the royal family had to say. Which was why I'd just flat out refuse any sort of order from the king if he ever tried to give me one. So even if the king demanded I go, then I'd use that as the very reason not to. It was a pretty funny catch-22 for me. Maybe I'd ask the king to try and order me to do something when I got the chance. I said I might think about it if the king gave the order, but I didn't say anything about actually going. I'd just tell them I wouldn't attend after thinking it over, that was all. See, that way I wouldn't be lying. Wait, that's it. If the king orders me to go meet with the Prince of Brancott, then I wouldn't have to see him ever again, since it'd break the oath I made to the goddess. Maybe I will actually try asking him to do that next time I see him. After I chased the messenger away and headed into town. Miss Kaoru. Really? We would be honored to have you come visit Brancott. Seemed this guy was here for something different than the last one. Apparently, he was the messenger of the Crown Prince's brother, Ghislaine. He'd heard I was avoiding his big brother, and that maybe this could be his chance to shack up with the angel of the goddess and take Fernand's place as next in line for the throne. My head hurts. This guy had to have heard about me at the palace, right? Then he should already know I had no interest whatsoever in royalty. And besides, the prince was basically conspiring to usurp the throne, which was something that'd only come back to bite him in the end, and hard. I didn't want any part of that, thank you very much. I have no plans to help him usurp the throne. If you try talking to me again about this, I'm gonna take it up with the Crown Prince himself and tell him that I'm too scared to come to Brancott because the second prince's messenger is harassing me. I wasn't going to complain to the little brother, but Fernand himself. The messenger could only stand there, their mouth opening and closing with no words coming out. Well, yeah. He'd be as good as dead if I really did that, after all. After driving away both of the messengers, I was finally on my way to the shopping district when... Miss Kaoru. Gah. Are you heading out? Then I'll come with you, too. Oh, it's you, Lil. She was the daughter of Johann, the guy who ran the Abili Trade Company, and the girl whose illness I cured using a potion a good long time ago. For some reason, I ended up bumping into her pretty often when I went out. Like, really often. She's not keeping tabs on what I'm doing and waiting for me, right? Nah, that can't be right. I was probably just overthinking things. Probably. Kaoru. The local kids. They were my worthy rivals whenever we played marbles together. So much so that I'd actually lost more than I'd won against them. Are you going out, Cal? Oh ho, she brought her little sister today. Man, little Tori is such a cutie. You going shopping, Kaoru? Where you going, Carol? Oh, Miss Kaoru. Kaoru. Lady Kaoru. AAARRRGGGHHA. I can't get through to the shopping district with all you people in the way. Just give me a break already. But, you know, it might not be so bad to keep this lifestyle up for a little while longer.